1. We're checking out this totally rad 1985 Chevy van that just popped up on Craigslist for $7,500. Let me tell you, these old-school Chevy vans are becoming quite the catch for van life enthusiasts. This one's rocking the classic white paint job that's been freshly redone, and under the hood, you've got that trusty V8 paired with an automatic transmission sending power to the rear wheels. Now, I've got to keep it real with you. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at more miles than that. But hey, these Chevy vans were built like tanks. The current owner has turned this into a pretty sweet camper setup. They've refreshed the interior and added some killer features for life on the road. We're talking shore power outlets, a fridge, and even a queen-size bed sitting on 3-inch foam. Comfort is key, am I right? They've even thrown on a Rollo roof rack with a non-slip surface up top, which is super practical for extra storage or just hanging out under the stars. The clean title is definitely a plus, and everything's reportedly working as it should. What's really interesting is that the owner's open to trading for a mid-size crew cab pickup with all-wheel drive, as long as it's of similar value and has less than 1,000 miles on it. For $7,500, you're getting a classic van that's been thoughtfully converted for camping, and these things have a huge following in the van life community. Just remember, you're buying a 38-year-old vehicle, so expect some old car quirks. That's just part of the classic car experience. 2. We've got a real blast from the past to share with you. A 1953 Chevrolet Silverado that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic truck is priced at $10,900, and based on the seller's description, it seems like a solid find. Now, before we dive into the details, let's address the elephant in the room. The seller hasn't provided a ton of information about the condition of this truck, which can be a bit of a red flag. However, they do mention that it runs, drives, and stops, which is a good sign. They also describe it as a solid truck, which suggests that it's in decent shape overall. Under the hood, this Silverado is packing a 256-cylinder engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. That's a reliable and efficient combo that should provide plenty of power for cruising around town or hitting the highway. One of the coolest things about this truck is its history. The seller mentions that it's been in East Tupelo its whole life, which suggests that it's got some real local flavor. It's always cool to find a classic vehicle that's got a strong connection to its community, and this Silverado definitely fits the bill. Now let's talk about the price. At $10,900, this truck is definitely on the higher end of the price range for a classic Chevy. However, when you consider its age, its history, and the fact that it's a solid runner, that price starts to look a bit more reasonable. Of course, as with any classic vehicle, there's always the potential for hidden issues or repairs that need to be made, so it's important to go into the purchase with your eyes wide open. 3. We're looking at a 1983 Ford F-250, and I've got to keep it real with you on this one. It's a project truck with some serious potential, but also some significant challenges. Listed at $5,000, this F-250 is packing the legendary 6.9L IDI diesel from International Harvester, matched to a 4-speed manual transmission and 4-wheel drive. That's a seriously tough combination that these old Fords were famous for. This one's coming from an Iowa farm, and honestly, that's usually a good story for these trucks. Now, let's talk straight facts. The odometer shows 50,732 miles, but given its farm life, that could have rolled over. The seller's being upfront about not knowing the true mileage. The good news? It's got a clean title and the interior is reportedly in good condition. Plus, there's a pretty impressive list of new parts. Tires, windshield, clutch, injector pump, injectors, rebuilt heads, and even a new fuel tank with sender unit. And they've got the receipts to prove it. But here's where we need to get serious. This truck isn't currently running. The seller's being completely honest about what could be a deal breaker. There's likely a cracked block with coolant leaking into the crankcase. That's a major issue that'll need addressing before this truck turns a wheel under its own power again. For $5,000, you're looking at a solid foundation with lots of new parts, but you'll need to factor in the cost of either repairing or replacing that engine. These old Ford diesels are tough as nails when they're running right, but getting this one back on the road will take some investment and mechanical know-how. 4. I need to point out something important right away. There's a bit of confusion in this listing. The seller's calling this a Silverado 454 SS, but we need to clear that up. The 454 SS model wasn't introduced until 1990, and the Silverado name wasn't used until 1975. So what we're really looking at is a 1977 Chevy C10 pickup with a 454 7.4L big block V8. Listed at $24,000, this is definitely priced at the higher end of the market. The truck's showing 90,000 miles on the odometer and comes with a clean title. It's been modernized with some cool upgrades. They've added LED lights and a digital cluster. Plus, it's got black leather interior, which wasn't original to these trucks, but can be a nice upgrade if done well. The white paint appears to be in good condition based on the seller's description, and it's running an automatic transmission with rear-wheel drive, a classic cruiser setup. That 454 big block is a monster of an engine, known for making serious power and that unmistakable muscle car rumble. Now, $24,000 is a significant ask for a '77 Chevy, even with the desirable 454. These trucks have definitely been climbing in value, but you'll want to inspect this one thoroughly. Check for rust in the usual spots: cab corners, rocker panels, and bed floor. Also, verify the originality of that 454 engine, and make sure all those modern upgrades are working properly. If you're looking for a classic Chevy truck with serious power and some modern touches, this could be worth checking out. Just make sure to do your homework on market values and get a good inspection before pulling the trigger at this price point. 5. We're checking out something really special. A 1980 Chevrolet El Camino that's been given some serious love and attention, listed at $17,500. Let me tell you why this one's catching my eye. First off, it's a Nevada car, which typically means less rust issues, and the seller's backing that up by stating it's rust-free. The body is described as laser straight, with fresh paint that's like a sheet of glass. And those aren't words sellers typically throw around lightly. Under the hood, there's a fresh Summit 350 crate engine with only 300 miles on it. That's practically brand new. The powertrain's been upgraded with a 3.73 Posey rear end, which should make this El Camino a blast to drive. They've also modernized the braking with four-wheel disc brakes, a huge upgrade from the original setup. The customization is pretty tasteful. Custom painted stripes, a roll pan, side pipes, and some really cool 65 Super Sport hood scoops that are actually stamped into the hood, not just stuck on. The interior is new, and they've replaced practical items like the carburetor, alternator, starter, tires, and brakes. With 80,000 miles showing on the odometer and a clean title, this isn't just some quick flip. It appears to be a well-thought-out build. The seller's being straight up about everything, even emphasizing it's not a Bondo bucket, which is refreshing to hear. At $17,500, you're getting a uniquely customized El Camino with modern reliability upgrades and fresh paint. For reference, clean El Caminos from this era typically range from $12,000 to $25,000, depending on condition and modifications. So this price seems fair for the work that's been done.
6. We're looking at something really special. A 1982 GMC Sierra Classic 1500 that's got that story we all love to hear. It's Grandpa's truck. Listed at $8,000, this piece of American iron has some real character to it. Let's talk specs. We've got a classic 350 V8 under the hood, paired with an automatic transmission sending power to the rear wheels. It's the long box version, which is great for hauling, and it's wearing a clean brown paint job. The odometer shows 105,996 miles, but it has rolled over, which is pretty typical for these workhorses. Now, here's what makes this truck interesting. It's been maintained, not just stored. The sellers put in some serious work recently. New distributor, carburetor, hoses, battery, and tires. Plus, the transmission was replaced just 20,000 miles ago. That's the kind of maintenance you want to see on these old trucks. The Grandpa's truck story usually means two things. It wasn't abused, and it was regularly maintained. Based on the seller's description of it being well cared for all its life and the recent maintenance list, this seems to check out. They say it runs great,
which is what you want to hear on a 41-year-old truck. At $8,000, you're in the ballpark for a well-maintained square-body GMC. These trucks have been climbing in value, and finding one that's been cared for isn't easy anymore. The seller's willing to negotiate but warns against lowball offers. Fair enough given the truck's condition and maintenance history. 7. We're checking out a 1977 Chevy C10 short bed that's got some interesting potential, listed at $8,500. Let me be straight with you about this one. This is a fleet-side model powered by a GM 350 crate motor with about 35,000 miles on it, paired with the reliable Turbo 350 automatic transmission. Now, the seller's being honest here. They've rated the condition as fair, which is the kind of transparency we love to see in listings. Here's what we're working with. The truck's rolling on some later model rims with good tread, and you're getting the original steel wheels with good tires too. That's a nice bonus. The interior is described as fair, so don't expect a show-quality cabin here. It's worth noting that the truck needs to pass smog, which could be a potential hurdle depending on your location and the engine's current setup. The price point of $8,500 is in the ballpark for a 77 C10 in fair condition, especially with a crate motor. These square-body Chevys have been climbing in value, but this one's priced considering its condition. The seller's open to offers, which suggests some flexibility on the price. One thing I really appreciate here is that the seller isn't trying to oversell it. They're calling it overall a decent pickup. And that kind of honesty helps you know what you're getting into. The clean title is definitely a plus. 8. We're looking at something pretty unique. A 1963 GMC 1000 that's got an interesting story to tell, listed at $5,500. Let's dive into what makes this truck special. It's running a 305 V6 long block paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission. That's a solid, reliable powertrain combo. What's really cool is this truck still has its original black California plate, which is always a nice touch for collectors. The seller's been upfront with recent maintenance, new battery, alternator, and brake master cylinder. They're even throwing in some valuable extras, including a brand new clutch, the original carburetor, and air cleaner setup. The truck's sitting on larger truck tires, which gives it a beefier stance. Now here's where I need to keep it real with you. The seller admits it's not perfect, and there's a Chevy front grille on this GMC, so it's got some mixed DNA going on. The odometer shows 48,000 miles, but on a 60-year-old truck, you'll want to verify the history there. At $5,500 with room for negotiation, you're looking at an interesting piece of American truck history. These early 60s GMCs are getting harder to find, especially in running condition with a clean title. The price point seems fair for what you're getting. A running, driving classic truck with some recent maintenance and extra parts. 9. We're checking out a seriously clean 1977 Ford F-150 4x4 that's got some tasteful upgrades, listed at $10,000. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. First off, the seller's being straight up about this being a solid, rust-free example. No patch panels here, which is getting rare for these old Fords. Under the hood, it's running a 400 mm engine. That's Ford's 400 cubic inch V8, with some nice performance upgrades including an Edelbrock aluminum intake and AVS2 carburetor, all backed by the bulletproof C6 automatic transmission. The modernization is thoughtful. You're getting LED headlights that maintain the stock look until they're fired up, a Bluetooth stereo for modern convenience, and it's riding on some serious rubber, 37-inch Maxxis tires that are only about a year old. That triple-plated chrome grille is a nice touch too. It's even a factory AC truck, though the compressor's currently missing. Now let's keep it real about the issues. The seller's being transparent here. The speedometer needs to be reconnected, the blower speed switch is getting finicky but still works, and one of the front hubs needs attention. The odometer shows 47,000 miles, but has rolled over, which is pretty typical for a truck of this age. At $10,000, you're getting a well-equipped, rust-free 77 F-150 4x4 with some desirable upgrades. These trucks have been climbing in value, especially clean, rust-free examples. The issues mentioned are all relatively straightforward fixes for anyone with basic mechanical knowledge. 10. We're looking at something really special, a 1958 Ford F-100 short bed that's been given some serious attention, listed at $18,000. First, I need to correct one thing in the listing. It's listed as FWD, but these F-100s were definitely rear-wheel drive. Now let's talk about what makes this truck special. Under the hood, you've got the legendary 312Y block V8 with a 4-barrel Edelbrock carb and headers. This is paired with the classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission, which is a cool piece of automotive history right there. The seller has done an impressive amount of mechanical work. Let me run down this list because it's extensive. Rebuilt carburetor, adjusted valves, new valve cover and header gaskets, new radiator hoses, belt, fuel pump, timing chain and gears, water pump, battery, and starter solenoid. The braking system has been completely refreshed with new brakes, wheel cylinders, master cylinder, hardware, front seals, and brake lines. The truck's sitting on 16-inch steel wheels with new tires, and they've done a rear axle flip. The electrical system has been redone, and everything's working, including the horn, which is always a good sign of attention to detail. Inside there's a new headliner and carpet, and they've even tackled the weather stripping with a new rear window rubber and included door rubber kit. The odometer shows 25,473 miles, but is rolled over, which is expected for a 65-year-old truck. It's got a clean title and is registered through January 2026, which is a nice bonus. 11. We're looking at a 1979 Ford F-150 4x4 that's listed at $4,500. And I've got to keep it real with you about this one. The seller's being refreshingly brief and honest here. This is a project truck that needs some attention. While they say it runs great and starts and drives, they're upfront about it needing work, specifically mentioning a fuel line replacement. That's actually good information to have because fuel line repairs on these old Fords are pretty straightforward if you're handy with tools. The truck's showing 100,000 miles on the odometer, and it comes with a clean title. Being a 4x4 model adds some value, as these are popular for both work and play. The automatic transmission is a plus for most buyers, though we don't have details about its condition. At $4,500, you're looking at an entry-level price point for a classic F-150 4x4. These late 70s Fords are known for their durability, but at 44 years old, you should expect to do some work. The fuel line issue needs to be addressed right away for safety reasons, and you'll want to do a thorough inspection for rust and other potential issues that aren't mentioned in the brief description. This could be a good starting point if you're looking for a classic Ford truck project that you can drive while you fix it up. Just make sure to factor in the cost of repairs and maintenance when considering the asking price. 12. We're checking out a seriously well-documented 1971 Chevy C10 that's listed at $20,000, and there's a lot to unpack here. This is a full-size long bed with the original side storage compartment on the passenger side, a cool factory feature you don't see every day. Under the hood, it's running a 350 small block Chevy V8, not original, with an Edelbrock intake manifold paired with a 400 turbo Hydromatic automatic transmission. What really stands out here is the extensive list of upgrades and replacements since 2019. The seller's being incredibly thorough with documentation, which we love to see. They've tackled both cosmetic and mechanical aspects. New aluminum radiator, oak bed, coil springs all around, power steering pump, complete brake job from Les Schwab, and even a full 20-circuit rewiring of the entire truck. That's a huge upgrade for reliability. They've also been honest about addressing rust issues, replacing the rocker box, kick panel, and portions of the floorboard. The odometer shows 57,608 miles but has rolled over, which is typical for a 52-year-old truck. The list of new parts is impressive. Tailgate, mirrors, fan and shroud, coolant components, neutral safety switch, wiper components, rear bumper, grille and emblem, turn signal switch, shocks, interior carpet, seat belts, antenna, and various seals. Best of all, they've got the receipts to prove it. At $20,000, you're looking at a well-maintained and thoroughly updated C10. The price reflects the extensive work that's been done, and the documentation adds real value. This isn't a numbers-matching collector piece.
but rather a thoughtfully upgraded classic truck that's been built to be driven and enjoyed. 13. We're looking at something pretty special. A 1982 Ford F100 short box that's listed at $20,500. And let me tell you why this one's catching my eye. This is a 2WD half-ton pickup that's been living the easy life, and it shows. We're looking at a factory original truck powered by the 3.8L V6 paired with a manual transmission, a combination that's becoming increasingly rare to find in this condition. The seller's calling it the last of the good-looking trucks, and these early 80s Fords do have a really clean, classic design. What makes this truck stand out is its level of preservation and maintenance. The seller mentions having extensive documentation for upgrades and maintenance, always a good sign when someone keeps their receipts. It's got both power steering and power brakes, which make it much more enjoyable to drive than its non-powered counterparts. They've added some period-correct upgrades, including new slotted mag wheels, and they're including the original steel wheels with hubcaps. That's a nice bonus. The silver paint looks clean in the description, and being ready for collector plates suggests it's been well preserved. At $20,500, we're definitely in the higher range for an 82 F100, but this isn't your typical worn-out work truck. The price reflects its condition and the extensive maintenance history. These trucks are starting to gain appreciation among collectors, especially original, well-maintained examples like this one. 14. We're checking out a really interesting 1974 Dodge Power Wagon that's listed at $9,995, and there's some cool stuff to talk about here. First off, this is a D100 Power Wagon with the 318 V8 engine, a solid, reliable power plant that Dodge was famous for. It's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and 4x4 with locking hubs, making this a proper off-road capable classic. The orange exterior with gray interior is a classic 70s combination that really works on these trucks. The seller claims the truck has zero rust, which is pretty rare for a 49-year-old truck, and it's running and driving great with 79,000 miles showing on the odometer. They've put new tires on it, which is always a nice bonus when you're buying a classic truck. Now let's talk about something important. This truck has a rebuilt title due to a bed replacement. While that's not necessarily a deal breaker, beds are often the first thing to go on old trucks, it does affect the value and explains why the price is where it is. The seller's being upfront about this, which we appreciate. At $9,995, you're looking at a classic power wagon with the desirable 4x4 setup and manual transmission. The price reflects both the condition and the rebuilt title status. These trucks are gaining popularity among collectors, especially the 4x4 models, and finding one that's rust-free is becoming increasingly difficult. 15. We're looking at a 1977 Ford F350 Ranger Super Cab that's listed at $5,000, and let me tell you why this one's interesting. First off, this is a Super Cab model, which is pretty cool for a 77. These extended cab trucks weren't as common back then. Under the hood, you've got the robust 400 cubic inch V8 that the seller says is running great, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission that's reportedly shifting well. That's a solid powertrain combination known for its durability. The truck's got some recent maintenance work done: new steering knuckle, spark plugs, solenoid, and battery. It's also equipped with dual fuel tanks, which was a useful feature for these work trucks, giving you some serious range between fill-ups. The odometer shows 65,000 miles, though on a 46-year-old truck, you'll want to verify the history there. Being a 2WD model with the Ranger trim level, this was more of a heavy-duty work truck than an off-roader. The white paint gives it that classic work truck look, and having a clean title is definitely a plus. At $5,000, you're looking at an entry-level price for a classic F350, especially one with a Super Cab configuration. The recent maintenance suggests it's been cared for, and that 400 4-speed combo is a desirable setup for these trucks. 16. We're checking out a 1970 Ford pickup listed at $11,500, and I need to point out something interesting right away. The seller mentions a V6 engine, but that's likely a mistake. Ford didn't offer V6 engines in their trucks in 1970.
It's probably either the straight 6, inline 6, or a V8, and given the claimed 18 mpg, I'm betting it's the straight 6, which was a reliable, fuel-efficient engine for its time. This truck's wearing a blue paint job and comes with a clean title. The seller's enthusiasm shows through when they mention just completing a 120-mile coastal drive, saying it ran like a new truck. That's the kind of real-world testing we like to hear about. The odometer shows 65,000 miles but has rolled over, which is expected for a 53-year-old truck. What's particularly appealing here is the condition. The seller describes it as nearly rust-free, with an interior in fantastic shape. Finding these old Fords without significant rust issues is getting harder every year, so that's a big plus if accurate. At $11,500, you're in the mid-range market for these classic Ford pickups. The price reflects the reported excellent condition and the fact that it's a running driving example that's apparently reliable enough for long-distance trips. If you're looking for a classic Ford truck that you can actually use while still turning heads at car shows, this could be worth checking out. Just make sure to verify that engine configuration during your inspection. 17. We're taking a closer look at a 1981 GMC Sierra 1500 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This short bed, two-wheel drive pickup is priced at $13,000. And from what the seller tells us, it seems to be a pretty solid deal. First off, let's talk about the condition of this truck. The seller is upfront about it not being a show truck, but they also make it clear that it's not a piece of junk either. The paint job is driver quality, meaning it's not perfect, but it's definitely presentable. The truck has been repainted back to its original white color at some point, which is a nice touch. Now let's dive into the recent upgrades and improvements. The seller has put in some serious work over the last few months, starting with a professionally built small block engine with a cam and all new engine-related components. That's a big plus for anyone looking for a reliable and powerful ride. The interior has also received some love, with a new USA 1 dash and a newly reupholstered seat. The windshield has been replaced, and all the windows have been tinted for added style and comfort. Moving on to the exterior, the seller has installed new side moldings and fender emblems, giving the truck a fresh and updated look. The bed has been protected with a spray-in bed liner, which is great for hauling gear without worrying about scratches or dings. Underneath, the truck has been fitted with new front brakes, new tires on the turbine wheels, although the slots don't go with the truck, and a new 2.5-inch dual exhaust system from the manifold back. The driveline U-joints have been replaced and balanced, ensuring a smooth and comfortable ride. 18. We've got a real treat for you, a 1979 GMC High Sierra 15 C10 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This truck is a true gem, loaded with high-end options and ready for a new owner who appreciates its potential. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller is upfront about the truck having some minor surface rust and oxidation, but don't let that scare you off. They make it clear that if a little surface rust is a deal breaker, then this might not be the truck for you. However, they also point out that the truck is 99% rust-free, with only a few small condensation holes smaller than a quarter on the floor pan. The rockers, cab corners, bed sides, core support, and lower fenders are all in excellent shape, which is a testament to how well this truck has been maintained over the years. Under the hood, this GMC is packing a fresh 350 engine that's been upgraded with a new carb, distributor, fuel pump, water pump, thermostat, and a full aluminum radiator. The seller has also dropped and flushed one of the tanks, which is currently the only one hooked up. All the lights and gauges in the cluster are in working order, which is impressive considering this truck had been sitting for 35 years before the current owner took possession. Now let's talk about the features that make this truck truly special. It's got a factory tach, tilt steering, cruise control, AC, heavy-duty cooling, heavy-duty suspension, think heavy half/big 10 inches type, a front sway bar, and a deluxe interior. The two-tone dark and medium metallic blue paint job with the factory hood stripe is absolutely stunning and sure to turn heads wherever you go. 19. We've got a real treat for you, a 1978 GMC Sierra Grande that's been hiding out in a New Mexico barn for years, just waiting for the right person to come along and give it a new lease on life. This Shortbox 4X4 is powered by a 354-barrel engine and a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a combo that any truck lover can appreciate. It's got some great features too, like AC and tilt steering, which are definitely nice to have. Now, the seller is upfront about the fact that this truck has been sitting for a while, so it's going to need a little TLC to get it back to its former glory. The tires are shot, the seat needs to be replaced, and it needs a new fuel pump, filter, and battery. But hey, that's all part of the fun of bringing an old truck back to life, right? The good news is that the truck runs and drives, which is a huge plus. It's always a gamble when you're buying a vehicle that's been sitting for a long time, but the fact that this one is up and running is definitely a good sign. The seller is asking $8,500 for this diamond in the rough, which might seem a little steep at first glance. But when you consider the fact that this is a 4x4 short box with a 350 engine and a 4-speed manual, it starts to look like a pretty good deal. These trucks are getting harder and harder to find, especially in this configuration. So it's definitely worth considering if you're in the market for a classic GMC. 20. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1965 Dodge D100 pickup truck that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $13,000, and from what the seller tells us, it's an absolute steal. First off, let's talk about the history of this truck. The seller purchased it from a family in Tucson back in March 2020, and it's got a pretty cool story behind it. The grandfather of the family had owned the truck for over 30 years, and his sons and grandsons rebuilt it for him. He used the truck at his mountain cabin to haul a trailer with a water tank, since the cabin didn't have a well. It's even got a receiver hitch and trailer brake, which is a nice bonus. Now, let's talk about the condition of this truck. The seller is upfront about the fact that it's in excellent condition, and based on the description, it's easy to see why. The clutch was rebuilt and the tie rods were replaced in 2020, and the brakes were rebuilt in 2022. That's some serious TLC that's been put into this truck, and it shows. Under the hood, this D100 is packing a 225/6 engine with the engine stamp hash 2463430, which is correct for a 63, 66 RG, 225 block. That's a reliable and powerful engine that's sure to get the job done, whether you're hauling a trailer or just cruising around town. The seller is firm on the price at $13,000, and they're only accepting cash. They're also not interested in any help selling the truck, so if you're serious about buying it, you'll need to come with cash in hand.